book lovers, it is G-Swizz here, and I'm here today to talk about the 2022 releases that I never got to in 2022. So this is a 7 on Sunday topic, and I am the host of 7 on Sunday. I will link the Goodreads page down in the description where you can check it out and you can participate in a topic in the future, or you can suggest a topic. This week's topic is pretty much leading into the new year. I'm pretty sure there were some new release books that everybody wanted to get to at some point, but for some reason or another, we could not get to them. This topic in a nutshell is essentially talking about those books, the books that we really desperately wanted to get to, but we, for some reason, had absolutely no time left to get to them this year. I guess that now I've got the topical explanation out of the way. Without further ado, let's get into the books that were released in 2022 that I wanted to read that I didn't end up reading in 2022. First off, I'm going to start off with 2 releases that I currently don't own for one reason or another, and then I'll move on to the books that I currently physically have on my TBR that I have let myself down by not getting to. First of all, I'd like to talk about one that I'm really ashamed of because I kept on putting it in anticipated release videos, and by the time that it was around release time, I was not motivated to read it, or at least reread the first book in the lead up to the second book. I was just not in the mood for dark academia. Yes guys, I'm referring to The Atlas Paradox by Olivia Blake. I did not get to this one this year, and it's not just because I don't have a physical copy yet. So my physical copy was ordered from Fairy Loot. I am getting the Fairy Loot special edition, and Fairy Loot are going to be sending them out to customers in the new year. It wasn't that. I actually attempted my reread of The Atlas 6, and I was just not in the mood for it. See, The Atlas 6, I feel like it's one of those books that you really have to switch your brain on for, and the reason why you do is because you're following multiple POVs, so you've got to be fully immersed in the story. The first time I read The Atlas 6, I was 100% prepared. The time I attempted to read it a second time, I realized that even though I was excited to read The Atlas Paradox, I was not in the mental state to read a book series that required a lot of brain power to follow along. And like I said, when I mentioned brain power, I mean to follow multiple POVs. At the time, I wanted to read a book series where, yeah, you know, I could follow dual POVs, but like third person would be better or first person would be better at the time. So when The Atlas Paradox came out, I missed out on it because I just wasn't ready to put myself through it, and I didn't want to put myself through it either without rereading The Atlas 6. So I do plan on rereading The Atlas 6 in the lead up to The Atlas Paradox. A lot was going on in my life at the time that I just needed a pick-me-up in a different way. I definitely do want to get to it though, because I did enjoy The Atlas 6 the first time that I ended up reading it, and I think the further I get away from my first initial read of The Atlas 6, it might just be even more mind-blowing, because yes, information is starting to leave me about the first book, and that's a good thing, because then I can reread the book, and then I can be absolutely blown away, and then I can go straight into The Atlas Paradox. And the second and final book that I don't have on my physical TBR yet, that I really did want to get to this year, however, I want to be able to afford the US hardback specifically for this book, because it's so pretty, and personally I don't think that the UK cover compares to it whatsoever. If we're doing a cover competition here, the US cover wins 100%. But anyway, let's talk about the book. Silver Under Nightfall by Rin Chiapeko. In 2022, I ended up completing the Bone Witch trilogy by Rin Chiapeko, and I absolutely loved it. It took me a while to get into, but once I was into it, I was completely immersed in the story, and I am still somewhat heartbroken every single time I think about that trilogy because of the mark it left on me. It's a really good trilogy. I recommend it to everyone who listens and everybody who will take my recommendations. The Bone Witch trilogy is really good. When I heard that Rin Chiapeko was releasing an adult vampire novel, I knew I had to check it out. And to top it all off, when I saw the US cover, I immediately fell in love with the art style, and I just knew that I was going to fall in love with the story. And it gets even better. I've noticed a few book community members read it and absolutely love it. That has gotten me so hyped up for it. A big reason why I have not yet read it has definitely 100% got to do with the fact that I still want to get the US hardcover. I want to purchase that one. It just costs $50 to import it. I'm keeping an eye on it to see if the price drops anytime soon, but if it doesn't, then I might just bite the bullet and I might just purchase it because it's so pretty. I want to read this novel so bad, especially after the Bone Witch trilogy and how Rin Chiapeko absolutely blew my mind there. Now let's move on to the physical books on my TBR that I did not get to. I'm gonna start off with Book Lovers by Emily Henry. Have I read a single Emily Henry book? No, I have not. And I'm not gonna lie, a few people in my personal life assumed that Emily Henry was one of my favorite authors. I I've never read an Emily Henry book in my life. I swear to God. But it's really funny because people think that I've recommended them in the past. Maybe some people have associated a memory with me talking about how I need to get to these books as me raving about them and recommending them. It's weird. It's funny because there are some books that people associate me with that I haven't actually read, but I have essentially talked about how I want to get to them, and I think a lot of people just assume that I've read them at some point. This also happened before I read the Bromance Book Club series and the Bargainer trilogy as well, funnily enough, but it's also happened with Emily Henry. The other day someone was asking me, is Book Lovers good? And I'm like, dude, I haven't read it yet. Like, chill. But then I guess that also puts pressure on me to actually give them that recommendation by actually trying it out. I told myself I was going to read Emily Henry in 2022, and what a failure that was. I never got to a single Emily Henry book in 2022, and you know what? Happy Place is coming out in 2023. Maybe 2023 is going to be my year. What I do know is that these would make perfect summer reads, and it is summer here in the Southern Hemisphere, so it might be a perfect time to at least get to these in January or February. Like, as soon as possible, G-Swizz. And the next 2022 release that I missed out on reading this year, I'm pretty sure I put on an anticipated releases video and I never got to it. That, my friends, is This Woven Kingdom by Tahereh Mafi. I was very much looking forward to reading this book for majority of the year. And then I think in the later parts of this year, I did attempt to read it when I was going through a really bad book hangover, and I immediately regretted that decision because I could not do it. I really couldn't. I know I have to be in the right mental state to pick up this rich fantasy, so I've got to do that when I'm in the right mental state, when I've probably stocked up on too many contemporaries, when I've put all those lighter romances in my system so that I can be prepared for this rich story. Also, I absolutely love and adore Tahereh Mafi's writing style. I love the Shatter Me series when I first read it, and I still do to this day. I just really want to reread it. I actually really want to reread it in 2023 so bad. Whereas with this series, it's definitely more on the heavier side of things. It definitely does not read like Shatter Me whatsoever. It's definitely richer in its tone and in some way a lot more intricate. I need to be in the right headspace to read This Woven Kingdom. I will let you guys know how I go with it if I do end up getting to it in the future. Maybe, hopefully 2023. We will see. I definitely wanted to get to this one, and I'm devastated that it did not work out for me in 2022. Let's talk about another book I DNF'd, Darkening by Sonia Mara. This was another new release that I received this year that I really wanted to get into, but once again, was not in the right mental state for it. It's a cool concept. I can get behind it. It just was not for me at the time that I started reading it, and I threw in the towel, and I had like around 6 more months to try it out again. I just couldn't do it. Like, I don't know if it was the writing, I don't know if it was the tone, I really don't know what it was. It just wasn't capturing me. Maybe I wanted to read like a lighter romance at the time or another fantasy. I actually don't remember what I picked up instead of the Darkening, but what I do know was that I just was not in the mood for the Darkening. It's still a very cool concept. I am wanting to try it out again. It will just probably be in 2023 or later because, you know, I really do want to continue on with the series, especially if Fairy Loot are continuing on with special editions for it. If it is a series, I don't know whether it's a series or a standalone, to be honest. I just want to know if I like it personally. I paid money for it. I got my Fairy Loot. I have this really cool edition. For what though? I don't know. Hopefully it might be a new favorite, but yeah, it's another one I tragically DNF'd. And I mean it when I say tragically, because I wanted to love this. And now I'm going to talk about a 2022 new release that I was pumped for. So pumped for until we got closer to release, and then I realized I was no longer hyped for it, and I don't really know if I want to read it anymore. But I paid full price for this hardback. I have to read Forging Silver into Stars at some point. So this is the spin-off to the Cursebreakers trilogy by Brigid Kemmerer, and I did not like how the Cursebreakers trilogy ended, personally. I'm also very bitter for Harper and what she went through in that trilogy, only to just get treated like that by her love interest. Like, I was not okay with that personally, and I just wish that Brigid Kemmerer at least wrote 100 pages of her love interest pretty much making up for the shitty things that he did. It makes me bitter, it makes me upset. I am personally angry at the Cursebreakers trilogy, and the more distance I get from it, the more bitter I am about the Cursebreakers trilogy. I personally really love A Curse So Dark and Lonely, the first book, and yes, I stand by the majority. It should have been a standalone, but no, this series continued on, and I don't really know what for. However, yes, this world has so much potential, and the characters around them also have so much potential. I just really hope that I'm going to love this, because I am very bitter about the Cursebreakers trilogy. And you know what? Yes, I wanted a spin-off initially, and this is what I want. I finally got what I wanted, but at the very same time, I don't even know whether I want it anymore, because I don't know whether I could put myself through the pain that I experienced after reading the Curse series and realizing that it was disappointing. I don't know if I can do that again, but I'm really hoping that the spin-off series will not be that again. It will be something different, and my girl Harper can be happy and get what she deserves, because she seriously deserves the world. And the next new release that I didn't get to this year is The Stardust Thief by Chelsea Abdullah. I think that this is a trilogy, and so yeah, I've been putting it off because I was wondering whether or not I should wait until all 3 books are out for me to binge read it or not. I do want to read it. I mean, we will see. Maybe, I don't know, there will be some sort of like themed reading challenge where I will eventually be motivated to pick it up, or I will just be in the mood for it. But what I do know is that for some reason, I'm more inclined to wait until a sequel comes out for it, or at least both books in the Sand Sea trilogy, the next 2, come out. I think I'm just inclined to wait personally. And so that is why I've put it off. It has nothing to do with the fact that I haven't been in the mood. I did put it on a TBR, and probably the same TBR I put This Woven Kingdom in, but after attempting to read This Woven Kingdom and knowing I wasn't ready for like an intricate fantasy, I saved this one as well. I do want to read this. I just missed out on it for wanting to have the entire series there, essentially. Same goes with the next book slash series that I'm going to be mentioning here, River of Shadows by Karina Halley. I do seriously want to read this book in the new year. I think, once again, I was waiting for the sequels to come out so I could do a binge read. It is how it is. That's what I do. Unfortunately, I know I put myself through that. It's just a thing that I do. It's a habit. And I mean, you guys will see that in my series TBR when I like talk about that. Because my series TBR for 2023 is filled with series that I've waited to read and binge read because I was waiting for more books in this series to come out. That's my problem, I know. But you know what? Someday I just gotta bite the bullet and I've gotta start series even though I am desperately waiting for sequels in them. But I've just been preemptively doing that. I have been preemptively waiting for the sequels to come out, not knowing whether or not the first book is actually good. I know, I have to stop that. River of Shadows is seriously one I want to read because it's a Hades and Persephone reimagining, and I love myself Hades and Persephone reimaginings. I don't know, I just dig them. Like every single time I hear that something is a Hades and Persephone reimagining, boom, it goes on my TBR. And the final 2022 release that I did put off for the rest of the year since obtaining it is Violet, Maid of Thorns by Gina Chen. I think the reason why I did this is because at this point of time, I kind of know that it's a duology. It could be a trilogy. Who knows? We will see. But what I did know the moment I opened my fairy loot, I knew a sequel was pending for it, so I waited. It is a short book. That was another reason why I thought to myself, you know what? I could wait. I could wait until the second book comes out and then I could do a binge read. I don't know whether this is going to be a duology or extended, but what I do know is that that is the reason why I put it off in 2022. I actually definitely want to get to this one in 2023. I don't want to put this one off for any longer. I want to see how it is because I've heard great things about Violet, Maid of Thorns, not just because the cover is pretty, but because a lot of people are saying that the story is actually really good. So fingers crossed I will actually enjoy it as much as everyone else has so far, and hopefully on top of that I will be able to anticipate the sequel with the rest of the fandom. This is a 2022 release that I definitely want to get to in 2023 100%. Majority of the books on this list are ones I want to get to sooner rather than later, but then some others later rather than sooner. We will see how this all goes. So I guess that's gonna be it for this video today, book lovers. If you happen to stay to the end of the video, leave me the star emoji. And if you happen to enjoy this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet already. Join the amazing community of book lovers. And also I have social medias. Matt Gswizzle Books on Twitter and Instagram, and I'm also Goodreads. That's www.goodreads.com/gswizzle. And finally, I'm at TikTok. Matt Gswizzle on TikTok if you want to follow me there for some bookish content. I love you, book lovers, and I will see you later. Peace.
Started out with half and I flipped it in a double. Started out with half and I flipped it in a double.